Welcome to the first Comic Pro boot camp, sort of pandemic class.
Edition.
The pandemic edition.
This is the pandemic edition. So yeah, so this is the first and only free class that we're giving, and it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be as long as the regular classes. So this one's going to be a little bit quicker. But we are going to just talk a little bit about us. Wills, I don't think we can hear you. Can we hear Wills?
Quack, quack.
Okay, yeah, we can hear. Okay. So, okay, so basically, hi, my name is Ryan Benjamin. I am a professional artist for, you name it, Marvel, DC. I'll just leave it at those two for now. But I've drawn all kinds of comics. I've been in this industry for 26 years. And the rest of my team, which was Alex Sinclair, Carlos Deanda, and Wills Portasio. Combination of all of us, we're looking at maybe 120 years of experience, I guess, assuming somewhere in there. So yeah, especially with Will. but yeah, so we're gonna go over just some basic stuff. This is more of just of kind of we do what we want to work on throughout this short workshop. So we're gonna go over, you know, the simple shapes and proportions and how to draw hands and feet, and we're gonna do some color work for you guys. I guess we just take off. Let's just take off enough talking. Let's kind of get in there and start drawing. And so we're gonna start getting into the quick demonstrations on how we're gonna handle this stuff. And yeah, let's just have fun. That's what we're here to do, is to draw.
Should we draw what we were talking about yesterday, or we just kind of like keep it free flow, or should we do something a little bit more?
Well, talk a little bit about yourself, Carlos, and then
Sure.
your part in the industry, and then
Keep it short.
All right then.
And then go right into, you know, simple shapes, which is our first class. What
Okay.
we're covering in that.
Well, I'm Carlos, so thank you all so much for joining us on this thing. I've been in comics now for about 300-400 years. I got started right after Ryan Benjamin over there. We actually, I didn't even know, but we had gone to the same art school in Miami, and then that's how I found out the whole link with Wildstorm and all of that. I was a huge fan of Wills. So yeah, you know, it's like Jim in the mid-90s had talent searches in the back of comic books, where you would have to like send these strange things called Xeroxes to a place, and then that's how they would hire you. And the express reply was about 6 months of not knowing if they had received the stuff or not. So yeah, you know, I got lucky, and I got the call from Jim to join the internship program at Wildstorm, and you know, that's how my story started. Who's next?
You're up. No, just keep going right into simple shapes and what we're going to be covering for that first
Well, then,
class.
let me see. Let me switch.
So yeah, so Carlos, go ahead and share your screen, and while Carlos is sharing the screen, I'm assuming all four of us will comment at some point.
Yeah, so what we're looking to do is kind of give you a little snippet of what each class is going to show you and talk about. And so Carlos is going to be one of the instructors for the simple shapes and proportions, along with myself. And here's a little bit about kind of how the lesson's going to be looking on the screen for you.
Can you see my my screen now?
Yep, we're good.
Cool. Should I just start drawing, or like talking a little bit about what I'm drawing?
Yeah.
Jump right into it and start explaining. So, is this the French fries?
No, it's a body.
Oh, so okay, so it's body. Okay.
Yeah, like you know, let me actually go back really quick. So we're gonna be talking about proportions, right? It's like this goes just all the way back to the classics. Something that helps me quite a bit is from the get-go planning about how long a figure is gonna be, right? Because you're very often talking about you're doing like a page or an illustration or whatever. So it helps me to know the total size something's gonna take, right? So like for example, like I know this is gonna be the top of my head up here. This is gonna be the bottom of my feet. And also if I'm doing something in perspective, for example, right? Like I'm gonna do a quick perspective grid right here. It helps me to know, I kind of do the same. This is gonna be where the body's gonna be pinned. It helps me to know almost like a toy stand, right? It helps me to know where they're gonna be standing. So if this were a figure, right? Like I just kind of, just very quickly roughing in the perspective. If this were like one of those figures, then I know where the base is gonna be at. And that just like lets me plan the overall thing, because very often, as I'm pretty sure it's happened to many of you, it's certainly happened to me, where you'll just start drawing and because you didn't plan it out, before you know it, you have like limbs coming out of a weird place, and you have these weird tangents of maybe an elbow at the edge of a page, and that's because you didn't plan the general, like how much space something was gonna take, right? So I always like to plan the bottom of the feet, right? And then the top of the head, right? And then if you're gonna take, keeping proportions very general, about halfways, that's gonna be the crotch, right? This is thinking about the heroic proportions, which read really well in a comic book. Heroic proportions means this is gonna be about 8 heads high, right? So this is a head, right? So here's the head, and then this is gonna be my halfway line, right? And then this is kind of like where like the torso goes here. The 2 heads down, it's roughly where the knees go, right? And then the other halfway down, you could make this where the foot lands, or if you want to make the figure a little bit longer, it could actually be like the ankle line, and then your foot goes here. And again, none of these are exact proportions. Don't be super like strict about like, oh man, this is exactly eight heads tall. These are more like general measurements to help you keep things consistent. Also, we know that the 8 heads is heroic, right? So somebody that would be, say, a normal size might be 7 heads high or 7 heads high. For example, a little kid could very easily be like 5 heads high. So a little kid could be like, the head stays the same, but the body all goes a little bit smaller, right? So we all tend to, I mean, so you think about a baby is like a weird chibi human, right? Like I'm a baby, right? But it's like you measure all the sizes. I mean, going to another extreme, you can have like a giant who's got like a really small head, and the body's gigantic, right? So the head becomes our standard measurement of size. And again, this is just a way for us to help things consistent. So that if I'm designing like big crazy guy, I know that big crazy guy has to have a head. Maybe the whole body will be 10 heads tall. Just to keep things consistent within our own characters, right? So this is gonna be roughly what I'm gonna be talking about in our initial class. Who wants to take over?
I just want to add to this. As you noticed, Carlos was laying out the figures. He was actually doing it using those simple shapes again, the ovals, the squares, the triangles, the cylinders. So that's something that we're going to use in conjunction with proportions, those simple shapes, and how layering them one on the other, you go from something like this, which is your armature, to a fully rendered piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like think about these simple shapes. Let me make a new one. Think about these simple shapes. If you ever seen somebody do an armature, or like with like say movies like Nightmare Before Christmas or any of these, right? Like you have a little body, and then you have a wire in between the things that you need to be flexible, right? It always helps me to think about very simple shapes that are also very solid, right? So like this could be a wire, and then I know the wire comes to a little hand, right? The fingers are wires. just very, very simple. At this point, I'm not worrying about anatomy. I'm not worrying about any of that. It's simply a way for me to visualize, again, where the top of my head is and where the bottom is, right? Because it's gonna be my floor here, right? So my figure could be standing like this, or it could be standing like a wide stance or whatever. But it's like this just helps me get a general uh, feeling of size while keeping it very simple. And the last thing I want to do at this stage is worry about anatomy and lighting. This is purely for positioning. And I'll pass the ball to whomever's next.
Wills, you want to jump in?
Yep. Go ahead, Will.
Hey guys. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Quick stop video.
Okay, I'm going to be taking on heads, faces, and later on with Alex, I'll be talking.
We lost Will for a little bit, but he's going to also be teaching the color class with me on the fourth week.
Head and shading of anything and everything. It's all about understanding the planes of the face, or the planes of the body, the planes of the arms and stuff. Face especially is seems very complicated, and it is, but you got to simplify everything so that you'll know how to attack it. And so in the course, I'll be talking about basic face patterns, how you can put a pattern or a graph onto the face. And you could, with that, you can extrapolate in 3D in simple form, where on this drawing, the edge of the mouth will line up with the inside part of the eye, and the curve of the front of this face, which is what we always draw, will coincide with the forehead, with where the nose touches the main part of the face, and down to the chin. And you guys probably know this also, the eyes go along to the ears, to the nose, though the Hulk has a tiny nose, so you can forgive him for not having that line up. But I'll show you that pattern. Actually, I'll just do it real quick over here. I'm going to be teaching you this later on, that here's a pattern where here are the eyes, basically the inside of the eyes go along this line, and that goes along, like I said, to the edge of the mouth. And then here's the nose. Now, if you take that pattern and you put it in any other angle in 3D space, everything will line up again the same. The inside of the eyes will start there. The edges of the mouth will go along there, and so on. So now at almost any angle that you want to draw that face, whether it's an up shot, a down shot, it'll give you a pattern. It'll give you a base for where to place your eyes, nose, and mouth. Now that's very important for, like, for instance, people with prominent bridges of their nose, so it kind of covers up the eye. A lot of people always ask me, so how do I know how far back or how far up that eye is? Well, this pattern will help you place your eyes and then place your nose over it to show you how far you need to go. Now, drawing heads is actually can break down to just that pattern, because the most important parts of the face are the eyes, nose, and the mouth. And then the other part of drawing a face is the shape of the face. You know, some people, some women like, well, the way we'd like to draw them in comics, have quote unquote heart-shaped faces. Your Wolverine types and your Hulk types have square jaw faces. Your typical normal face doesn't have the prominent jaw that a superhero would have. And then when you gain weight, then there's a whole nother.
Did he freeze? I think he froze.
He'll catch up in a sec.
He'll catch up. I'm gonna give him 5 seconds and then I'm taking over. Okay.
Cause of that.
Oh, there you
And uh-oh, am I gone?
No, you're there. You're
Okay.
back.
Because of added fat, or if you have a lean face, your shape changes. So once you understand those shapes, and then you put that together with the pattern, then you could draw just about any face. And more importantly, in comics, I mean, we once worked it out where it's 20 pages. It's something like 80 panels an issue. So especially if you've got a superhero team of 5 people, you're going to be drawing those faces a lot. So you're going to have to be able to draw that face in any angle that you can figure out, any angle that you need. And because this is a deadline environment, you need to have a simple, quick, efficient process that always works in order to be able to do that. If not, you're going to be freaking all the time, trying to get that face to look like that character again. So that's what we'll be doing in the faces session. In the color session with Alex, I'll be showing how to shade and showing the basic process. When you shade, basically it's broken down to the same thing, understanding the basic patterns of the face, I mean of the head of anything, and then understanding basic light logic to understand what needs to be shaded and what will be blacked out, what will be highlighted, what won't be, and then just following that rule and that pattern throughout the rest of the face. So that's basically what we're going to be doing in those 2 sessions.
Okay.
And right now I'm just playing around. Ryan?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to take over. I'm going to do. Give me a minute. Let me quickly log on. Not log on. Hold on 1 second. All right. I'm going to take over. Okay. So I will be. Where did my wake up go? As soon as I pull my my wake on pen just disappeared. Did you grab the wake on pen? Okay, I can't draw with a mouse. This is my.
Hey, we colored with the mouse for years before the tablet came out.
The wake on pen was right here.
It was brutal.
Disappeared. I got it. Okay. Whew, that was a little bit weird. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys a little bit on just really quick. I won't do both hands and feet, but I'll quickly do a little bit of hands, and then I'm going to show you guys a little bit about the core of the human body. I like to stress on the core because there's actually a core for the hands too. I like to stress on the core because the core is literally like the hub for everything else, for the head, the hands, cape, jacket, you know, you name it. If that person has armor on, if the person is sitting in a giant mech suit, if it's a superhero character and he's picking up a car, it's all based on that core. Once you nail down the core, everything else kind of branches out of it. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit on how I do my chords. So, okay, well, did I just lock? Let's see. So, the basics of the hands, right? What I'm going to be teaching next week, we're going to go over this a little bit more, more in detail. But basically, I like to establish this simple box shape. From that simple box shape, I'll subdivide the sockets for where the fingers are going to come out. Then I know exactly where the fingers are going to come out. I cut back here to kind of show where the thumb is going to go. Now I kind of have a simple grid on where everything's going to go from that point, and everything else is just, you just basically fill in the blanks. So this is really quick way of how I quickly draw hands. There's a more detailed way I'll go in and just show you guys a little bit later on. It might not be today. I don't think I'll have time today. But this is the core of what I'm talking about. This area, you know, think about, what I like to do is try to think of the hand without the fingers. Just think of that shape without the fingers. And with that shape, this is where, you know, this is where the wrist connects. The rest of the arms connect in this area. So if you can draw like a basic arm like this, and you can draw a box in the end, you can pull the fingers out. You know, you saw Carlos, he was doing something a little bit earlier where he was drawing these hands, and he kind of did something like this. It's very that's exactly what it is. Okay, so if you can draw this box, and that's your grid. Once you have that grid, you can pretty much do whatever you want with the hand. You can make that hand, you can bring out the fingers a little bit and just kind of play with it a little bit more like this. Or say you want to do something else, the fingers, you can change the angle, pull out the thumb, and maybe have the fingers pointing. You have one finger that's pointing straight ahead. So once you have that, it's that simple. And this is something I learned a couple years ago. I mean, I knew how to draw hands, but I didn't really get it until I actually started to study 3D animation. And when I started to study 3D animation, it gave me a new perspective on how to draw hands, on how to create a hand. And then when I went from going from 3D to 2D, it helped me understand the 2D side even better. So as a quick demonstration, this is Clip Studio. This is what I use a lot. So in Clip Studio, if this was the hand, this is, just think of the hand like this. That's the box, okay? That's the box right here. I cut it for the back end. I cut it 4. Oops, I do that. Was 5. You won't give him 5 fingers. 4 fingers and a thumb. Okay. So from that, then you can go ahead and pull out the rest of the fingers. So if you think of it like a box first, it'll make it a lot easier for you to finish off the hand. Now, I'm going to show you guys something else. This is basically the core, what I like to work on. This one here actually pre-did a lot of this stuff here, but I wanted to show you guys. So this is what I like to think of as the core of the human body. With the core, once you establish the upper part, which is the chest, and then the pelvis, you can pretty much use that at any angle, and you can pretty much get a simple shape of, okay, this is what the character is going to come out. So eventually you can have one character doing this. It could be like a Superman type character, where he's you know, he's flying and he's doing something. So you're basically trying to nail down, where is this going to live on this page that I have in front of me. So once you have the chest and the pelvic area, you can move that pretty much anywhere you want to at any angle, and then just pull the arms and legs out of it. So just to give you guys another perspective on it, I pull out this 3D model. So this is basically what I like to show people: the end and then the beginning, and kind of bridge the middle and bridge the parts in the middle to kind of show you the stages in between. I'm showing my work as we're going. So just imagine this is what you're thinking of. This guy in blue, you're thinking of a pose like that. I want this guy in this pose. So you want to actually draw that core first before you try drawing anything else. Try nailing that part of it down. Once you nail that part of it down, then you can go through, and you want to be able to line up the hips and the joints, his shoulders, and where the sockets for his hips are. Okay, once you have that, then you can quickly go over it and start pulling out the appendages, pulling out the arms, the legs, and then you can start getting the shape. And then if you can see, if you take away all the layers, you start to see, okay, now you kind of see where the sense of, you can get a feeling of how this guy is gonna sit on the page. What leg is he putting more weight on? What angle is he at? Where's his head is going to be? What the size of his head? Where's his arm? Where's his hands going to live? So you kind of get a better sense of that in this stage of things. When you lay out a page, this is how you lay out the page in roughs. This is actually kind of detailed for me. I've seen layouts way more rough than this, where it's pretty much just stick figures just going up. But this is where you want to be at when you're trying to just establish, where's this form, where does it live in this 2D, 3D space. You know, who's it interacting with? You know, who's it interacting with? You know, what's the story am I trying to tell? You know, all these things you're trying to establish from this stage right here. And this is before you add any details, before you go and you clean up the contours, all that stuff. So let's go over it again. You're thinking this. You start off drawing the core. You make sure all the pivot points are aligned, because a lot of times you might like quickly create this pivot a little bit, you know, that angle might be a little bit too high, or it might be a little bit too off, might be a little bit over here on the side. So you know, make sure everything's at the right stage. And then when you finish, you go through and you add this on the outside. Okay, so stuff like this, we're definitely going to go over in the future classes, and I'll show you guys how a little bit more on how we hit the marks on all of these areas. And we have about 30 minutes left. So Alex, if you want to take over, and then from there we can do the closeout part.
Sounds good. All right. So for the fourth class will be about color, and my background is just that. I've been in the industry will be my 28th year. and I've been in here as a colorist my entire career. But at the foundation of my skills is all these art principles that we're going to try and cover for you. I always have said that a good artist can make a great colorist. And so you need to have that foundation to be able to work in color. So here we go. Let me share the screen with you. All right. And so what we're working on is Will sent me his Incredible Hulk. And I went ahead and did a quick flat version of it so that we can move along. When he was shading his, you saw that he was using a light source that came from up here. So he was shooting light from here because all his shadows were away from there, and his highlights were closest to that light. Okay. One of the things I want to show is how much.
Are you sharing?
Is it on yet? Oh,
It's not on yet. Okay.
And are we on?
Okay, now you're on. Okay.
All right. Sorry about that. All right. So Wilson's light source was right here where this arrow is, and so all the highlights were on this side of the shapes, and then all the shadows kind of fell away from that. Using those same principles that Wills used, I want to show what a collaborative process looks like, in that when he sees it, when he draws it, he thinks of it upper light and shadows below. What someone else can bring to it is what if I decided that the Hulk is going into a building that's on fire. All right, that changes the lighting perspective. So if the fire's from below, my light source is going to be up here. So if I'm going to come in and start rendering this, I'm going to start adding a little bit of shadow now from the top away from the bottom. And just by these quick strokes, much like those simple shapes, I start with quick strokes to establish a little bit of the anatomy and how the light is affecting the anatomy. All right, and then do a little bit more here. And then come in and start to add a little bit more detail to some of this lighting, always keeping in mind where that light source is coming from. I'm establishing light by using shadow first, and then I'll come back and start using some of the highlighting to establish that light source. Since it's fire, I'm definitely going to use a color that defines that. A lot of the decisions that I'm making as far as I'm shading come from knowing human anatomy and having done this kind of rendering for years. It's also, if I'm not sure how the lighting is going to work, I'll go in front of a mirror with a flashlight and kind of point it at my face in the direction that I'm throwing the light on the piece that I'm working on. All right, so now I'm going to come back and hit it with the highlight color, and I'm going to use orange since it's fire. And just kind of to demonstrate how much light and color can change that perspective, that image, the mood that it sets. And again, it's going back to the same concepts of seeing it as a simple shape, right? That I'm seeing this pectoral as a rectangle that's gonna first catch light flat like this, and then within the segments of that pectoral muscle, it's going to start to create a little bit more. Same with the shoulder, where it's just kind of not necessarily a sphere, more of an oblong shape, but then as the light catches different parts of it, it starts to separate it and create the different segments of it. Little by little, I kind of carve my way. And again, much like the drawing that we do with where we layer all these shapes, I layer my highlights, and you see me kind of bouncing around the whole place so that I'm evening out the lighting so it doesn't stand out too much, where if I was just focusing on the face and then I start kind of going towards the rest of the body, and I might lose that focus, the unity of the lighting of the muscles. And then using a little bit of cast shadow work. And then moving on to the next part that I'm going to need the highlights for. You kind of see me dissipating the highlight as it moves away from the light, where it's strongest when it's closest to the light, and then just kind of fades away. Let's do a little bit of this. Just to kind of show a little bit of texture difference, where he's got really short hair here, but those little chunks of hair will catch light here and there. And then we unify it by bringing in this fire that I was talking about. We have the fire here, using different brushes that I've either created or either bought and modified. I'm gonna make it look like it's fire. And these are my brushes that you're seeing on the side here that I use over and over all the time. Back and forth, just again, never really just stopping to make with just one brush stroke, but if you see me kind of painting in and out of that to make it look more realistic, because fire is so organic, you gotta make it completely random. And through different brush settings, I have it doing just that. We'll finish with a little bit of this here. But some of that, where you kind of saw me, if we were gonna, let's say let's do this this leg here, right? The way I think it through is if I'm just thinking about this part of the leg, and I'm seeing it as a cylinder, okay? So that if the light source is down here, okay, the light's gonna hit here first, then move away, and then the side that's away from the light's not gonna get any of that light, okay? So I kind of start off as just that, it's just a cylinder. And then I start to carve away the muscles that I need. So here's the hamstring, okay? The lower quad or the groin muscle, and then this is the inside quad muscle that barely catches the light here. Okay, then I have to take into account the pants and the fabric. And kind of folds away, and I'm coming back in with a little bit of shadows to preserve that. But it kind of gives you an idea what color brings to a piece, and how different it could be from each of us. If we all four of us had started this piece, if Will had sent it to the four of us and said, all right, color it, I think we'd all come up with something completely different. But in the end, it's something that's what's great about the collaborative process is we add to what the other artist did right before us, and when the piece is done, it's great to see it as this piece where we all work together on it. All right, I think, do we want to open it up to questions?
Yeah, sure. Students, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and start. I guess you posted in the chat room because there's a lot of it's 23 people right now. Go ahead and start typing.
And it can be about anything that we just talked about, or anything, any other questions that you might have about us or the classes.
How will be the interactions between the teachers and the students? The students will have assignments and corrections. Yes, there will be assignments. So what's gonna happen is for each class, we're gonna have like a preset demonstration, and we're gonna go over certain strategies on different topics, which is going to be simple shapes and proportions, and then hands and feet. Also heads, we're gonna be working on that. So we're going to do a breakdown of that, and then we're going to send you guys off to do some work. And then when you do work, then you're going to send it back to us, and then we can get it ready for the follow-up class, which is, I think the follow-up class happens 2 days later. I think, is it 2 or what? One day later? I think it's two days later. So so that's the initial setup, and then we're going to have that for each one of the classes. For Alex, there's a question for you. Oh, wait a minute. Let me see.
There's one above it. What is your timeline like for adding classes like the body mannequin? That was super cool.
The timeline. So, well, the mannequin, they're all inside of Clip Studio, so it's really easy. It's just drag and drop. I could quickly go over that with you guys again, but it's pretty simple. It's just drag and drop. And then once we have that in there, then we can sketch over it. I can even supply you guys. In fact, if you guys want to, I can supply you guys, like, some screenshots of this, where I can set it up so you guys can practice at home. Or if you want to, just fork over $39. Clip Studio Art is not expensive. I think it costs $39 or $49 right now. And I have Clip Studio Pro. And there's the Pro feature, and then there's the basic feature. The basic feature is the cheapest one. The Pro one is I think it's $300 and almost $400 for that one. And the only difference is that you get to animate in the Pro. That's really the only difference. What's next? Okay, these questions are coming in.
Okay, so for mine, for Alex, if the fire is behind the Hulk, would there be some form of rim lighting around? So the fire is actually coming from in front of him and below. But yeah, in the more advanced piece, I would definitely add some backlighting or reflective lighting coming from whatever environment other than the fire that the Hulk is in. So if it's like a dark room, I might bounce some blue light on the backside of it. I guess I could do a quick share and show what I'm talking about with that.
Okay. Oh, you're gonna show
Just
right
real
now?
quick. Yeah, so I can actually do it on the fly here. So let's say that this was inside a dark room, or it's a nice day out. Okay, some of this bounced lighting here or reflective lighting would come in mostly to help pop the cool color from the warm. I thought that the green that was there before was enough to do it, especially because it was a value difference. The green was so much darker than the fire that I didn't really need it. Especially if it's a simple piece like this. During the inside of a comic book, during the storytelling part of it, I would bring some of this blue in mostly to establish where he's coming from. And now that he's going to the room that's on fire. So that's a continuation of maybe a panel that was before, where it was maybe it's at night, he's jumping into this building that's on fire, and this blue lighting that I would add is more of a storytelling detail than an actual artistic decision. All right, let me pop back out.
Okay. Next one, bit of advanced question, but how fast should you make pages? I find it takes me 2 to 3 days to pencil and ink a page. Are there any tips on getting faster? You are talking to Sir Speedy right here, okay?
Ryan is not a good example.
Yeah, don't ask her.
I actually, one time I told one of my editors that, yeah, I'm really fast, you know, and so I kind of spilled the beans a little bit, but yeah, I am pretty fast. I can knock out pages fast. I try not to go too fast, because the faster I go, the more sloppier it gets. I can do about 2 pencil pages a day. If you give me another day, I can ink both pages in the next day also.
And build your rocket
And build your rocket
at the same time.
So so we're definitely going to be going over tips for speed in the actual classes. We're definitely going to go over that. We're going to show you guys some shortcuts on how to, you know, just moving really fast to the page, how to set up the page. So you're putting a lot of emphasis in one part, but not the others. You know how to set up your panels. So, you know, you're telling a story, you're still getting enough detail, you're getting it across, and you're still leaving room for dialogue. So all these things have to come in mind as you're working and doing stuff and getting ready for the ink.
And that's also part of some of the course work that we've done in the past that we're hoping to bring to the online courses, where we talk about storytelling and how to economize your time. To kind of go back to your question, is an average for artists in the industry is like a page a day pencils. Same with inks, about a page a day with inks. In a colorist, it varies a lot. I've been known to do a page in one day, and I've been known to do 20 pages in a day, and it just depends on the deadline too. So if I only have 5 days to do 20 pages, I have to average 4 a day. So your work is really influenced by your deadline. But on average, a page a day pencils, a page a day inks, and maybe 3-4 pages a day colors is a nice number that can earn you a decent living.
All right. So go ahead, Carlos.
I know, just very quickly, right? You have to think about the fact that for the most part in the American industry, at least, you're doing an issue a month on the average, right? So you have 4 weeks to do 22 pages, right? So that's why the industry standard, more or less, is a page a day for pencils, a page a day for inks.
Exactly.
Sometimes you get slammed and you have to do everything by yesterday, right?
Yes.
So that's what makes you a professional, right? It's like being able to speed up and slow down, but it's like a lot of that will just come from experience, right? And making mistakes and figuring out how to streamline your own process through those mistakes and that kind of stuff. There's really no rushing it. You have to go through the steps to do it, and kind of like figure out what works best for your own process, which hopefully you'll get some of those ideas from the course, you know.
Exactly. And not boasting, but the fastest I've ever done a book was in 1 week. I did 22 pages in 1 week.
Crazy.
I know I'm
Crazy
crazy.
man.
I am crazy.
Crazy man.
I was a lot younger. I had a lot more energy. I could stay up and sleep for 2 hours and then get up and jump back right into it. So
The kids.
I'm not that way right now. Okay, so Alex, the last quick question is actually for you.
Okay, so the way we're looking at it is we're going to provide you with a piece that's black and white, and basically ask you to color it. Whichever way you decide to do it is really up to you. Whether you use digital media, whether it's an iPad with Procreate or a Photoshop on a desktop, or if you really just want to use like markers or paint and do it whatever way works best for you. When you turn it back into us, what we'll do is we'll put it up on the screen and we'll do the critique session like that. So it's really up to you how you want to do it. We really don't necessarily want you to run out and buy Photoshop, buy Procreate. Although Procreate is like a $5 program or $20 program for your iPad, and that's a great painting program if you have an iPad. But you can also do a month free trial, I think, for Photoshop. If you do have like a computer and you want to kind of mess around with it. Obviously, it's a lot easier to just sit there and do it with your, heck, if you want to use color pencils or crayons. As long as the high concept is color theory, right? It's not, we're going to critique you on your materials. We're going to critique you on how you approach the color. So go ahead and use what you want, really. I'm not going to be very specific or finicky about what you used. I'm really going to look at how you're rendering and how you're seeing the figure in color.
So last question, Carlos, you want to take this one? Last one.
Let's see.
Go to the chat section down there.
The online classes don't have the interaction between people. Is that one the one you're saying about the will we have a way to communicate in a community or a common chat? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Well, the way that I think we're thinking about doing it right now is that one day we would have the course, and then the next one we would kind of go over everything that was drawn, right? Beyond that, I don't know what we were planning. Will we have it like any follow-up feedback or?
I think it'll be a little more organic than what this is, where we have to squeeze a lot of information into just 1 hour. Mm-hmm. When we're doing the course itself, since it's an hour and a half long, I think what we can do is stop along the way to field questions. If you're drawing as we're teaching and you want to show what you have and you want us to critique on that, we can probably do a couple people like that on that initial day. A lot of the interaction is going to be on that second day where we're putting up your piece and we're talking about it. We're basically drawing over it or showing you what needs tweaking or what decisions could have been different and that kind of stuff. So there is going to still be a one-on-one interaction, or a one-on-two, since there's 2 instructors per. And that's why we kept the classes so small, so that we can guarantee that everybody who wants their work to be seen will and will get critiqued. Just bear in mind that it's going to be like an art class in college where it was always like, oh, it's critique day, and you put your piece up and you back off and you wait for the comments to fly in
for the beat down.
You know, everybody knows it's your piece and everybody's looking at it, and so but that's kind of part of what being an artist is, right? Developing that thick skin, and understanding that the heart of it is it's a critique that will hopefully make you a better artist, because we're showing you what your strengths and your weaknesses are, so you can take those weaknesses and lift them up so that they're all strengths.
Something that Ryan was talking about when we first started this whole idea for the course was to have it so that it would be similar to the way that we used to be at the studio, because we were pretty ruthless. But you realize it's like, if you're paying your hard-earned money for this class, that's kind of what you want, right? Like your mom can tell you your drawings are nice, right? So you're here to like learn, right? And yeah, it's like there's so much experience here that you want to get a good diagnosis of your car engine, right? Because you don't want us to lie to you. Again, like go ask your mom for that, right? It's like, if you're paying your hard-earned cash, it's because you want feedback from us on how to improve certain things, how to speed up certain things, right? Because I think the biggest asset that we have as a group is that we've made so many mistakes that we can tell you, you know what, avoid that pitfall. Like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Personally, that was one of the things that I had to learn the hard way, right? Where I think initially you're like, you are trying to reinvent the wheel, and guess what? Somebody back in the Renaissance beat you to it. So why not learn from them, right? And that's what this course is about, like learning from our collective mistakes, you know?
Yep.
So there's another question. Also, is there any specific foundation skills we need for this course? If you're an absolute beginner and you've never picked up a pencil before, I say welcome. It's a long road. You're not going to learn this in a week. It's going to take some time, so just get ready to draw. If you have some skills, you doodle on the weekends. When your mom's talking, you're not paying attention and you're just drawing away. You're constantly creating and thinking of something, but you feel like your skills aren't like up to par, and you want to improve. this is good for you. The foundations that we're going to be focusing on. This is something that every single one of us still use to this day. No matter how pro you are, you always rely on your foundations. So that's what we're going to be teaching, is that we're going to be showing people how to get better at your foundations. So that when you skin it, it'll look better. You know, you can literally tell what's going on when I'm doing layouts, or there are times I've actually hired people to do layouts for me, and when they do the layouts for me, they will throw down some really quick lines, and I'll see it instantly. I don't have to see eyes, I don't have to see teeth, I don't have to see hair. All I need is just the shapes, and instantly I'll get it in my head. I'm like, I see it, because from the foundations, it brings the energy. You can feel the character coming across the page. You can see that punch coming right at you. You can feel the one character communicating to the next. It's all right there, right in the foundation. So once you get that, it's easy to just skin it and just put the rest on top of it. And then with the shortcuts, we're gonna be showing you guys. We're gonna be showing you guys how to set up the foundations, and then during the rendering phase of it, how do you spot blacks? How do you set up certain things so that you can speed up your process? It won't take you 3 hours to draw one panel. You can get that panel done in like 25 minutes. There are ways to actually do that and get beyond that. So there's a ton of tricks that I've learned. I remember I first learned these tricks way back. I remember in like 1995, 96 when I was learning these tricks. I mean, I'm old. So, but yeah, that's what it is.
And know that our course is very comic book specific, right? Because that's what you're here for. But a lot of these concepts apply to whatever art that you're doing. I carry these concepts over to, I love drawing a wildlife, painting wildlife. And all these concepts apply to that too, about, you know, the shapes and the shading and the lighting and the color and all that stuff. That will definitely something you can take from here in comics. And if you decide that you want to also paint, you know, landscapes, it definitely carries over, and you can use it for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, just to go off of that, it's like if some of you are more into like Steven Universe type animation styles, right, where it's a lot simpler. It's like all these. The beauty about foundations is that they're exactly that, right? Like they don't change, and you can use them when you're starting off, and you can use them 100 years later, because they are that. They're like the cornerstones of all art, right? So yes, we are focused on the comic book aspect of it, but where do comic books come from, right? It's like it's classic illustration. If you look at like Jim Lee comes from John Buscema, John Buscema comes from Frazetta, Frazetta comes from the Renaissance illustrators. There's a straight line from comics all the way back to classic figure drawing from the Renaissance. So don't get like this is for comics, but comics go back so far back that it actually encompasses so many things. Animation comes from comics. Illustration comes from comics. You know what I mean? This is a melting pot that if you're like, well, you know what, I don't want to render like Jim Lee. Well, the knowledge of knowing how form works can also teach you how to do a style like Steven Universe or even Adventure Time, because form is form and lighting is lighting. Like those things don't change.
Yep. So we only have a minute left.
So I found 3 questions on the Q&A section of the chat.
Oh, okay.
So if you guys want to switch over to that.
Okay,
so the first one is, so Mr. Alex, what interested you the most that made you want to be a colorist? Also, all of your guys' work is awesome. Well, thank you for the compliment. We appreciate that. I actually wanted to be in comics. And initially it was, I wanted to be a penciler. And I think everybody who works in comics wants to come in as a penciler. So we all create a portfolio that's filled with pencil work. And then some people will also show ink work. Some people will show even color work. And that's what my portfolio looked like. A bunch of pencils, a bunch of inks, and a bunch of color work. and my critiques always, my pencils and my inks always got critiqued, and every conversation I had ended with the phrase, "But I really like your color work." And it took me a while to kind of figure out that everybody was loving the color, and everything else wasn't quite there yet. And right around that time is when Wildstorm, actually back then, Homage Studios, had a talent search ad in one of their comics, and they had a talent call for writers, pencilers, inkers, colorists, and I made a decision that I was just going to send color and use that as a way to get my foot in the door, and then if I'm going to pencil, I'll pencil later on. And I sent samples, and like 2 weeks later, I got a call from Jim. He invited me to come into the studio. And so the lesson for those of you out there who are getting your portfolio review is, don't just listen to what you need to work on, listen to what they like, so that you keep doing that, or that if you can use that as a way to get yourself into the industry, your foot in the door. Yep. You know, use that. It turned out for me that coloring was definitely my strength. And you know, 27 years later, I'm still doing it through the good and the bad. So it definitely was what I was meant to do.
Yep. I have a very similar story. Would we have a test towards the end of each course?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Your drawing is your submission, right?
Yeah.
We could. It's more of a. It's art, right? So it's so objective, and we're at all different levels. That the critiquing is basically you turning in your work, and we tell you what we think of it.
Like, for example, for the stuff that I will be going over, because it is simpler drawings, I don't want to see a couple of really, really pretty wireframes. I want to see like maybe 100 doodles of figures, right? Because with those kinds of drawings, you're not worried about like, well, you better draw a perfect rectangle. No, I want to see you feeling like there's a bunch of channels on YouTube where you can just do like 2-second poses or 3-second poses. So if anything, the thing I would love to see from the students would be that we teach the class, and then for the follow-up class, I want to see pages of just doodles of you trying to figure out how to move the figure around like a simple toy, right? I don't want to see like one big, beautifully rendered mannequin. That's not the point of a mannequin. The point of a mannequin is to get loose, is to understand it. So something else that I learned the hard way too is that you have to learn how to learn, if that makes any sense, right? If that's why, for example, when you're doing figure work, there's the 10-minute pose, there's the 1-hour pose, there's a 10-second pose. Because with a 10-second pose, you're not trying to get perfect lighting. You're trying to get the rhythms right. You're trying to get as close as possible to the rhythm of the figure. You're not worrying about like, oh, is the shading properly done, right? So in my particular case, what I would love to see from all of you would be just a ton of sketches, seeing you wrap your mind around the specific task, which in this case is to absorb the concept of a simple wireframe, you know?
So this is the absolute last question. How would we send you what we're working on through email? So we thought about that for a minute. Messenger here, I mean, the only way you can send it is if we're all on Messenger, and it would be a little bit too late. We would need time to review it. We thought about Google Drive, but not everyone has a Gmail. So in essence, we're thinking everyone will just email us to the Comic Pro Bootcamp email, and then we'll just gather all that information, all the images there, and then we will review it. I was going to say, my brain just froze for a minute.
It don't have to be a beautiful scan. It can be, a photograph with your phone of the 2-3 pages that you did, and then we'll give you like a naming structure for it, like first name dot last name,
yes,
_1, yeah, and then 2, and then 3.jpg, and then that's what we'll use.
So don't send any PSDs, just send JPEGs.
JPEGs is good.
All we need is something just to download really quick so we can go over it with you guys. And during the class, we will go over that online in class during the review section, and then at the end of the day, you guys will have the actual files that we're working on, and you get to take it home with you, and we'll email all that off to you guys. So we'll probably send it right to you through Messenger, and then you can take it and do as you wish. Okay, so I think we are done. Yep, that's all the questions I see in here. Okay, so so this is coming to the end. One more thing before we end. For the classes and the workshops, we have one more spot for the individual classes. So all the group packages are gone. So we only have one more spot for each one of the classes for simple shapes and proportions and how to draw hands and feet. So if you sign up for one of the for one, you want to get on the other one, you know, this is your chance to get on there. There's only one spot left. If you know someone who wants to get on, you can also, you know, invite them and just get them on board. So you can do that also. So I think that's it for that. I think Will froze again. Oh no, he didn't.
No, he's there.
He's there. Okay. Okay. So this should be it. This should be the end of it. So I will see you guys on Wednesday at 5 p.m.
That's right.
So that will be the first class.
Mhm.
So get ready to draw and learn some stuff from us. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so
all
much for
coming
joining
out
us.
tonight. Go
Okay.
ahead, Carlos.
See you guys.
Thank you, everybody. See you Wednesday.